So, it is Sunday, the 6th of November. I'm in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, engaged in my alternative spiritual practice of protesting against Unitarian Universalist injustices, abuses, and hypocrisy, which include, but are by no means limited to, misusing Canada's blasphemy law and Bill Cosby-style legal bullying that seeks to cover up and hide such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers. And a small group of Montreal Unitarians, basically the fair number of the leadership of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, or past leadership of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, are standing outside the church here near the sidewalk. They're going to do a little ritual of entering the church. This is a new thing that's only really been going on since the beginning of this church year in September of 2016. So they basically gather outside the church and then they sing a song on their way in, kind of thing. The woman in the middle there, the gray jacket and red scarf, blew a raspberry at me just as my battery died. So unfortunately I didn't have a video of that, but it just shows the dismissive attitude. In fact, just the fact that the total pretending I'm not here is a good sign of the willful ignorance and psychological denial that Unitarians, not just Montreal Unitarians, but Unitarian Universalists more generally, engage in when they're confronted by protests against Unitarian Universalist injustices, abuses, and hypocrisy, and especially when it's a protest against clergy sexual abuse and cover-up and denial of sexual abuse. I mean, you wouldn't even know there was a protester here based on their attitude, having nice little chats, friendly, laughing, oh look, here comes, okay, it's not who I thought. I thought it was Harry Thacker, but I don't think so. A similarly dressed gentleman, but not the person I thought he was. So anyway, they're having this, nice little chit-chat, and then they're going to have a little procession into the church. And I'm going to put down the camera for now and circulate with my picket signs. Got somebody exiting a taxi. Oh yes, it's the Pattersons, I believe. And it looks like Mark Abley on his way. Looks like it could be. Maybe not. No, it's not. Good day, sir. So, a gentleman who just walked by is not a member of the church. It's a person who has, I've had some chat with him in the past regarding my protest. He walks by fairly regularly. So, some cars. And looks like my picket sign got blown down. So,
Is it your first time here at the church? Let me introduce you to the minister.
Okay, so this woman here is a first-time visitor, apparently. So it'll be interesting to hear what kind of bullshit Reverend Diane Rollert feeds her about my protest. So anyhow, shall continue to circulate a little bit, fix my picket signs. So, looks like somebody actually put my picket sign back up here, which was not such a bad thing. We shall fix this one, and we shall, that wind really is a little, it even blew down my coffee cup. That's a bummer. Okay, well, can't win them all. Oh, it's still largely full. That's nice. So, we got the little gathering here. David Rollert, Diane Rollert, and John Inder, and some other members of the church whose names I don't necessarily know. John Inder's former president of the board of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. He bears a very high degree of responsibility for the fact that I'm protesting out here. So yes, nice little chit chat here. Well, another picket sign got blown down. So, it looks like my bag got blown a little bit too. Just keep it closer to the curb here. Wouldn't want it to be trespassing on church property. Okay. So again, this gathering of Montreal Unitarians outside the church is a fairly new thing, where they gather as a small group and have a kind of procession into the church, a little sing-song. This really only dates back to early September of 2016 when they began the church year for 2016-2017. So as we can see, they are basically just pretending the protester is not there, just pretending that nobody's standing there with picket signs that say Unitarian Universalists misuse blasphemy law to cover up and deny such despicable crimes, pedophilia and rape. Well, no, I don't. Just as pedophilia and rape. There wasn't enough room for such despicable crimes as on the picket signs. But that's a quote from the. Oh, here they go. They're starting their little sing-song. So again, it's debatable as to how many, what percentage of the church attendance this group represents. I certainly hope it's not everyone. I certainly hope they have at least a few people. Well, I know they have a few people inside, but we're looking at 15 or so people. I didn't count them this morning, but it's really not very many. And if it represents the bulk of the attendance, or even a third of it, it's really not many people. I mean, if let's say that's a third of the total attendance, let's say there's 30 more people on the inside, which I kind of doubt, we're looking at 45 members of the Unitarian Church of Montreal attending today. So it really doesn't look too good for the Unitarian Church of Montreal in terms of attendance. We got a bunch of bikes here. We got another car pulling up, and let's see who's okay, recognizable face there. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bikes from the look of things, and 15 or so people in a procession into church. Latecomers. So yeah, it really does make me wonder, what sort of actual Sunday attendance the Unitarian Church of Montreal has these days. Back in the day, go back to the mid-1990s, a fair number of people, not a huge amount, but 80, 100, sometimes more. But yeah, they had a reasonable attendance, but all told, I'd be surprised if there's more than 50 here today. They tend, there are some young members. They've been recruiting at Concordia and McGill University. Okay, here's a recognizable face too, a prospective Unitarian Universalist minister. So make sure he sees the signs. Oh, he's doing his best not to look at them. Doing his best not to look at them. Yep. So, I got a few more people coming in. Somebody doesn't look too happy to see the signs. Alright. So, anyhow, looks like we got a few stragglers. So this woman is explaining the picket signs to the child, reading them out to the kid, which is actually kind of nice. I heard her read out the unsafe sect picket sign slogan, and she's explaining it to the kids. This is the exact opposite of what Montreal Unitarians do, when their kids ask about the signs. So it's kind of nice to see a member of the public probably doing a reasonably good job of explaining the protest to her child, what it's about. Maybe a future activist there. Anywho, looks like the small coterie of Montreal Unitarians went in for their Sunday service for November the 6th of 2016, and they did their little procession in, which they've been doing since September. They probably, I don't know how long they'll keep it up. There was a time years and years and years ago when they actually came out with what they called positive picketers. It was essentially a counter-protest to my protest, and essentially trying to drown me out. They would have, even as much as a dozen or so members of the church holding picket signs, and of course they all said nice stuff about Unitarian Universalists. Basically, most of the signs had, Unitarian Universalist principles and ideals on the sign. The very principles and ideals that they are making a totally mockery of. And they're essentially trying to hide my protest. But, I made sure that passing cars and pedestrians saw my signs, which were not flattering. And so I think they probably figured out after a few months that, magnifying the problem wasn't really doing them much good, because, the people who saw my signs, which very, very clearly stated, that this church has problems, probably thought that the other protesters were actually supporting me. So like I said, that whole magical thinking, as it were, didn't last very long. Went on for a few months. I'm trying to remember what year it was. Around 2003, 2004, something like that. More than a decade ago. Happened on Reverend Ray Drennan's watch. Before Reverend Diane Rowley became the installed minister, before Reverend Peter Bellotta became the interim minister after Reverend Ray Drennan resigned after being minister for about a decade. Reverend Diane Rollert's coming up for about a decade worth of ministry at the Unitarian Church of Montreal. It'll be interesting if she stays that much longer. I think in that her husband seems to have established himself in Montreal in terms of business. You know, they might be somewhat reluctant to move to, you know, another city or something, take up ministry there, but you never know. Anyhow, we shall just continue our little protest here. I think I'll take a swig or two from my coffee. So as I was commenting earlier, it's a very nice early November day, sunny, nice puffy clouds, not cold really, just a little on the cool side, but you got the warmth of the direct sun, so a nice balance between warm sunlight and cool breeze. So a really nice day to be out protesting and basking in the glory of being accused of blasphemy by atheist Unitarians in the 21st century. Truly a unique honor and privilege. And having a nice coffee here. The cyclists coming by. This bike path is comparatively new. It was installed in the last year or so, certainly within the last 2 years. So it's a recent change in the traffic situation here, and does bring a good number of cyclists coming by the Unitarian Church of Montreal.